Hi, this is Willie Crawford, and I'm still vacationing in the Philippines. I'll be here for another few days. Yet I am in such good mood that I felt like recording a quick video sharing with you an opportunity to get what I call $1 million in free publicity. And I have indeed, in my 27 plus years in business online, gotten millions of dollars worth of free publicity. And a lot of it was in the way I'm going to share with you today. And that is getting interviewed on podcasts. And I've also been interviewed for magazines and newspapers and things like that too, and on radio shows. But anyway, I'm just going to read this to you because I'm in the Philippines where my lighting right now is not that great. The audio is actually not that great because there's karaoke going on in the background near the beachside cottage that I'm staying in. So I'm just going to read to you from my Word document, and I hope you'll forgive me. And also, if you want to download this, there'll be a download link to this very document in the description below the video when I post it on YouTube. Okay. So anyway, it's about how to get $1 million worth of free publicity. My podcast, The Modern Midas, discusses proven ways to make money, hopefully while working less, making your money. My podcast also goes making your money go further, building a fulfilling life for you and your family. As you can hear, I travel the world and making the world a better place while still making a profit. You can do all of those things. If you think that you can provide value to my audience without being boring, then you should do two things. One, subscribe to and check out a few episodes of my podcast. That's because one of the best ways to pitch anyone, whether it's a newspaper, magazine, some interview on a radio show or whatever, is to tell them about one of their projects that you specifically enjoy. They want to know that you're not just sending out a mass pitch to the world, but that you really want to personally be on their show. So you need to make the outreach feel personal to them. So that's the first thing you need to do is reach out to me and tell me something you enjoyed about my podcast show so that I know you actually viewed an episode or so. And you can check out my podcast at youtube.com/The Modern Midas. That's The Modern Midas, TheModernMidas. When you visit that URL, click on the link labeled podcast or podcast specific content, because I have on that channel hundreds of videos that weren't broadcast as podcasts because they weren't suitable. Note that I broadcast some episodes of my podcast over 60 additional channels. Those are mostly audio channels. So if your episode is appropriate and we spell out any URLs, etc., that you have then you have the potential of getting your message out to literally millions. People out exercising, driving, and doing all kinds of things can be drawn into your world. I personally have had people approach me to buy big ticket products or services because they heard me on a podcast broadcast years ago. And my podcast, even on YouTube, have been up for over 15 years. So these things are enduring. The second thing you need to do after you familiarize yourself with my podcast and the possibility of being broadcast to millions, not just a YouTube podcast, is to contact my team via my support desk. And that's at willie.orbitdesk.com. That's WILLIE.ORBITDESK.com. That's willie.orbitdesk.com. And in that support ticket that you submit, tell us a little about yourself, such as your experience, your expertise, and why you think that you'd make a good guest. We'll get back to you, and if you seem like a good fit, then we'll request your bio and Q&A sheet. The bio saves a show host or an interviewer lots of time in researching you, although they still, in order to do a great interview, they should research you thoroughly, maybe reviewing some of your work. If you've done podcasts before, maybe listen to a few of those. If you watch a lot of podcasts, you'll see some interviewers, openly admit they do that, so they really know the guest and can ask intelligent questions. You also need to, if requested, submit a Q&A sheet. Q&A stands, of course, for question and answer. And on that sheet, you need to suggest 6 to 12 questions that an interviewer might ask you, perhaps paraphrasing them. I, as an interviewer, more or less allow my interviewee to control the interview by giving me questions to ask them. And that way I don't throw any surprises at them. But a professional tip or pro tip is to make the interview not seem like it's a total pushover or it's totally promotional for the interviewee by throwing in a suggested question or two that seems like a challenge or that expresses doubt to the interviewee that makes the interview sound and be more credible. If an interviewer says, "Oh, come on, can somebody really make money doing this?" or "Is this really happening in the world?" That adds some credibility to the interview and will get you a better response. As an additional note, my potential reach across Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and MeWe, and in both long form and short form content is in the tens of millions, literally. And if your interview is really share worthy, if it's good, you deliver value to my listeners, then we will get you exposure. We'll also leverage press releases where appropriate. That is, I will put out press releases inviting people to tune into certain episodes, and those press releases may or may not have direct links to you, who you are, your website, or whatever. It'll be my decision, but I do leverage press releases to the max. So all this is to say that I do also have a clue when it comes to leveraging podcasts. I do also sell appearances on some of my podcasts. And yes, I have several podcasts. And I also offer coaching on being a successful podcast guest. If you'd like more information on that aspect of my business, please reach out to me via my support desk. Where that URL again is willie.orbitdesk.com. That's willie.orbitdesk.com. And finally, if you'd like a copy of this PDF, you can download it directly from a link on my YouTube channel. The direct download link is in the description of this very broadcast. This is Willie again. I thank you for listening. Feel free to share this with your friends and feel free to please reach out to me and nominate yourself as a potential guest on one of my podcasts. Thank you.